I never believed in ghosts. I just needed rent money. But the moment I started faking seances, the dead started showing up with real problems, and now I can't seem to shut them up. You ever hit that point where you do just about anything for a little cash? I mean, anything short of selling your kidneys or joining a cult, though honestly, if either of those had a dental plan, I might have considered it. My name's Marla King. I'm 29, have a degree in theater I've never used, and until recently, I was a bartender at the Winking Fox, a dive in downtown Greybridge that smelled like regret and pickled onions. The job suited me, honestly. Loud music, low lighting, and just enough booze to blur your moral compass. But then I got caught skimming vodka from the top shelf and rebottling it with the cheap stuff. Fired. Again. And with rent due, no backup plan, and a less than clean record, the universe basically shoved me straight into a Craigslist ad that read, "Seeking medium for historic inn." No experience necessary, I mean, come on. That's practically divine intervention. So 2 days later, I found myself walking through the iron-gated entrance of the Hollow Hearth Inn, a sprawling Victorian mansion turned kitschy tourist trap. The air smelled like cinnamon potpourri and wood polish, and every creaky step across the foyer floorboard screamed haunted. I half expected a candelabra to float by. Instead, I got Clara O'Neill. Clara looked like a character from an eccentric witch movie. Messy, gray-streaked curls, black shawl over a floral dress, and chunky beads around her neck that clacked like wind chimes when she moved. Her eyes sparkled with the kind of optimism only true believers or habitual liars carry. "You must be Marla," she said, clasping my hands like we were long-lost coven sisters. "You radiate intuitive energy." I was radiating hangover and desperation, but sure. Clara owned the Hollow Hearth, and according to her, she wanted to turn Greybridge into the Salem of the South. Ghost tours, psychic readings, tea leaf readings, it was all fair game. She'd hired a few mediums in the past, but most of them moved on quickly. She wanted someone with flair, someone with charisma. "I'm not a real medium," I told her before she could finish her pitch. "Neither is anyone on TV, dear. The guests just want a good story," which was exactly what I could give them. So that's how it started. I lit a few candles, draped some scarves over a table, and memorized a handful of cold reading tricks I found online. Guess birth months. Ask if someone with a name starting with J meant something. Watch their eyes, give vague affirmations. People ate it up. Every Friday night, Clara booked out the seance suite, yes, that's what it was called, and 10 gullible tourists would sit around the table, wide-eyed and full of Chardonnay, waiting for me to contact their dearly departed. I'd slip into a practiced trance, roll my eyes back, and let the drama unfold. Sometimes I even shook the table a little for effect. It was easy. It was money. It was totally 100% a scam, until Becca Langford showed up. Not the Becca. Not at first, just the name. It was our third Friday session. I had the usual setup, dim lights, flickering candle stubs, incense curling through the room like fog on a horror set. The guests, mostly women in oversized sweaters, were whispering nervously, clutching amethyst crystals from the gift shop. "I'm sensing." "A young woman," I said, swaying a little in my seat. She's cold. Her name, it starts with a B, the usual murmurs. "Becky?" Someone guessed. No, Becca. And that's when the room changed. Like, changed. Not the heater kicked on kind of change. I mean, the air grew thick, cold, like someone had opened a freezer door inside my lungs. Every candle flickered at once, and I swear I heard something whisper right next to my ear. "Help me." I thought Clara had added a sound effect, or some stupid dry ice machine, but her eyes went wide too. She looked almost afraid. That wasn't in the script. Then it got worse. My head snapped back like someone yanked my ponytail, and my mouth started moving without me. My voice dropped a pitch, almost like someone was speaking through my throat. They said I fell. I didn't fall. He pushed me. Then I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the velvet chaise lounge in Clara's office, with her fanning me frantically with a pamphlet that read, "Connecting with the Beyond, a visitor's guide." "What the hell happened?" I croaked. Clara's eyes darted around the room. "That was incredible. You were channeling. Everyone believed it." One woman cried, "2 tipped extra." "I don't remember anything that's even better. Total possession." I sat up, heart thudding. I knew stagecraft. I knew how to fake fainting. But this wasn't me forgetting my lines. I felt something. No, someone. Later that night, back in my tiny apartment above the bakery, I poured myself a generous glass of wine and opened my laptop to do some casual Googling. Becca Langford Greybridge. Hit. Obituary. Died 2 years ago. Age 22. Fell from a bluff near the edge of town. Ruled accidental. No foul play suspected. I stared at her photo. She had one of those bright, messy smiles that made you believe she was the life of every party. Wavy auburn hair, nose ring. Not the kind of girl you expect to haunt anyone. But the moment I saw her face, a chill crept down my spine like an unwelcome hand. He pushed me. Was it possible? Was she really there? I told myself it was stress. Too much cheap wine and candle fumes? Maybe I'd gotten too into character. Maybe my own performance hypnotized me. But that night, as I curled up in bed and tried to sleep, I heard it again, so soft I could almost convince myself I imagined it. "Help me, Marla. I didn't sleep that night, not because of the voice. I'd convinced myself I dreamed it by the time the sun came up, but because I couldn't stop thinking about Becca Langford. If that was her speaking through me, then either I'd officially lost my mind, or the dead had decided to make me their mouthpiece. Honestly, both options sucked. The next morning, I dragged myself back to the hollow hearth with 2 shots of espresso in my system and a commitment to pretend none of it happened. Clara greeted me like I just cured cancer. "You were amazing last night," she said, practically vibrating with excitement. "I've already got 3 private session requests. People think you're the real deal." "That's the problem," I muttered, walking past her into the kitchen where the staff left day-old muffins for guests. She followed me. "What's wrong? Still shaken up? That means you were truly connected, Marla. The spirit world chose you." "No," I said, picking up a banana nut muffin and eyeing it like it might fight back. "I didn't choose them." Clara's expression softened, and for a moment I thought she was going to be empathetic. Instead, she said, "Well, regardless, I've got you booked for Saturday at 8. Group of 5. All locals. Think of it like community service with tips." I spent most of the day at the town library, which smelled like paper and lemon cleaner, and was staffed by a woman named Helen, who had one facial expression and it wasn't friendly. But she let me comb through the archives, which was all I needed. I found Becca's name in the paper, twice. The first was her obituary, short, polite, full of words like beloved and bright light. The second, 2 days later, was about her fall. Tragic accident. She'd slipped from Lover's Bluff during a hike with her boyfriend Theo Bright. The article quoted him directly. "We'd been drinking a little," he said. "She wandered too close to the edge. I couldn't stop her in time. No investigation, no charges, no questions, and no way in hell I was letting that slide now. I didn't tell anyone I was going to visit Theo. I just showed up on his porch at 6 p.m. on a Monday, holding a bag of sympathy cookies I'd bought from the bakery below my apartment. They were oatmeal raisin, the worst kind. I figured guilt pairs well with dry pastry." Theo opened the door shirtless and sweaty, holding a wrench. He had that ex-frat boy charm that screamed "I peaked at 21" and a haunted look behind his eyes I wasn't sure was acting. "You're the ghost chick, right?" he said, looking me up and down like I was the one who murdered someone. "I prefer spirit liaison," I replied. "But sure." "What do you want?" "Just a few minutes. I've been contacted." "By Becca." His mouth flattened, but he stepped aside. "Make it fast." The inside of his house smelled like gym socks and Axe body spray. A shrine to mediocrity. But the living room had photos of him and Becca, laughing, kissing, hiking. One even showed them on that cliff. "Do you believe in ghosts, Theo?" He snorted. "Do I look like the kind of guy who burns sage?" "No. You look like the kind of guy who says he's into therapy but only listens to Joe Rogan." He gave me a half laugh, half growl, and dropped onto the couch. I stood, arms crossed. "She says she didn't fall. She says someone pushed her." "Bullshit," he snapped immediately. I loved her. I let that sit. Watch the tremble in his hands. "She said he pushed her. Not you. But if it wasn't you, who else was there that day?" Theo froze. "I thought it was just you two," I added. It was supposed to be," he said, suddenly quieter. "But she invited someone else, some guy she was tutoring. Matt something. He showed up late. We argued. She told him to leave. I didn't see him after that." "And you didn't tell the cops?" "I didn't want to look guilty," he barked. "Jesus. Everyone already thought I did it." I studied his face. He looked tired, scared. Not innocent, not guilty either. Just cracked. "Where can I find Matt?" I asked. "I don't know. He moved right after the accident. College dropout. Weird kid." I dropped the bag of cookies on his coffee table. "You should eat those. You look like hell." Back in town, I got my next clue from the most unlikely source, Nate Harper. Detective Nate Harper, to be exact. 31. Always looked like he walked straight out of an LL Bean catalog. And absolutely the last person who should have been flirting with me at the inn's wine tasting last month. He found me outside the bakery Tuesday morning, sipping burnt coffee and Googling Matt whatever on my cracked phone. "You're Marla King, right? Depends who's asking." "Nate Harper, Greybridge PD." I sighed. "Am I in trouble?" "No," he said, then tilted his head. "Should you be?" I smiled sweetly. "Depends who's asking." He chuckled, then got serious. "You've been asking around about Becca Langford?" I didn't respond. He continued, "Her case is closed. But if you know something, I'm listening." "I heard a voice during a seance," I said. He blinked. "You're serious, dead serious." He didn't laugh, which made me like him a little more. He looked around, then leaned in. There were inconsistencies in Theo's story, but no proof, no evidence, and no witnesses willing to speak. "You dig any deeper, you might stir up things people want left buried." "Are you warning me or protecting me?" I asked. He shrugged. "Maybe both." That night, I lit a single candle and set out the tarot deck I hadn't touched since theater school. Just a prop, just for show. But as I shuffled, the cards flipped themselves. Death, the tower, the lovers, reversed. I felt her before I saw her. The air thickened. My skin went cold. Becca stood in the mirror across the room, her eyes sad and furious all at once. "Matt was obsessed," she whispered. "I told him no. He didn't like no." And then she was gone. Matt Connors was arrested 2 days later after Nate found a buried backpack in the woods behind Lover's Bluff. Inside were Becca's missing earrings, a flask with both her fingerprints and his, and a handwritten note he'd tried to burn. Turns out obsession doesn't die with rejection. Matt confessed. Becca's fall wasn't an accident, it was a cover-up. The town was stunned. Theo cried on live TV. Clara turned the hollow hearth into a full-on justice for Becca vigil site. And me? Well, I went back to my usual Friday night seance, except now people came hoping I'd talk to someone real. And sometimes I do. Becca visits me less now, but when she does, it's quiet, grateful, lighter. I think she's almost ready to move on, but as I was packing up the candles last week, I felt it again, that shift in the air, that whisper on the edge of silence. Marla, I need your help. The end. Comment what stories you want to hear next. Subscribe to FryyDaee on YouTube for the full videos. Thanks for watching.